Okay, so I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of a review of how vectors and trigonometry work together. So this top triangle right here is a right triangle, and here's the vocabulary that goes along with the vectors. The hypotenuse is called the resultant, and the resultant is the vector sum of the x component and y component. So if you have x and y, you can find the resultant by using the Pythagorean theorem. It's just real simple. Remember, right triangle, you can use the Pythagorean theorem. Where it gets a little trickier is if you just have the resultant. And so we're going to work a little bit with that. Looking down here, here are the trigonometry vocabulary. So you have the angle in the corner. You have this is a right angle or a right triangle, and we have the hypotenuse, and then the sides of your triangle are named based on where they're related to the angle. So you have, this is the opposite side, and over here is the adjacent side. It's next to the angle, the other one is opposite the angle. And so those are the words that you'd use for sine, cosine, and tangent. And so sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. And you would just put the value of the length of the side in for each one of those, opposite or adjacent or hypotenuse. So when we're talking about vectors, and where you're going to run into this first, is with velocities. So you would have some velocity is equal to some value. And this component we call the x component, and this one is the y component. And so if we use numbers for this, let's say this velocity is 30 meters per second, and our angle is 25 degrees, and we want to know Vx, and we want to know Vy, we're going to end up using our trig. So let's look at finding the x component first. And so to find x, we want to find the adjacent side. And with the adjacent side, we need the hypotenuse and the cosine of the angle. So it'll be, this is defined Vx. The cosine of 25 is equal to Vx over the hypotenuse, which is 30. And the cosine of 25, you want your calculator in degree mode, 0.091 is equal to Vx over 30. So Vx is equal to 27.2 meters per second. And you're going to end up doing the same thing for Vy. So for Vy, we're going to have sine of 25, because it's the opposite side, is equal to the opposite, which is Vy, over the hypotenuse, which is 30. Sine of 25 is 0.42 is equal to Vy over 30. So Vy is equal to 12.7 meters per second. And so that's how you'll be using trig. So the velocity component at an angle, you'll end up with force components at an angle. We'll do momentum at an angle. So there'll be a lot of pieces at an angle, but the math is exactly the same. All right, good luck. Hope this helps.